every idea that I've just talked to you about is supported by a majority of the American people. These are not radical ideas.
Let's take these one step at a time, because you mentioned a lot of important things there. Let's go with the minimum wage thing. Now, the argument that I've heard about the minimum wage being raised to $15 an hour is that they're entry-level positions for high school kids, for people that are just getting their feet wet in the marketplace. They're learning how to work. They're making some money after school. That if you charge, or if businesses have to pay $15 an hour to people like that, to entry-level people, that they won't be able to stay open.
Well, first of all, they will be competing against, if you're a business and I'm a business, and both of us have to raise our wages at the same level, we both have the same burden, so it's spread across. That is what my conservative colleagues will tell you. The truth is, I don't have the numbers right in front of me, that while it certainly is true that young people do work at McDonald's and the minimum wage jobs, a significant and majority of the workers are not kids. They are often, and I've met them at McDonald's, they are workers who have children themselves. When we work very hard to raise the minimum wage at Amazon and at Disney, we put pressure on both of those companies, and they did the right thing. And when you talk to the people at Amazon who got that raise, these are not kids. These are people in their 30s. These are ordinary adults who cannot make it on $12 or $13 an hour. So I think the argument that, they're all kids, is not really quite accurate.
Well, not even that they're all kids, but that if they are kids, what would you think about making a minimum wage for someone who's under 18 that's different from a minimum wage for someone who's a legal adult? I'm not
for that. I think we do it, and look, many of these young people have their own needs. I just talked to a young woman last night who is working, going to college, working full-time, trying to take care of her family as well. So I think, look, the minimum wage has not been raised in 10 years. It is now $7.25 an hour, which is clearly unacceptable. The cost of housing, California, all over this country, is rising fairly rapidly. People can't afford health care, can't afford college. I don't think it's asking our employers too much to pay at least $15 an hour minimum wage.
Now, I'm glad you brought up Amazon, because one of the things that always freaks me out is when I find out that enormous corporations that make billions of dollars have tax loopholes where they literally pay no money. How is that possible, and how do you stop that?
Well, it's the same thing as the drug companies. How is it possible that we pay 10 times more for insulin in this country and for other drugs than in Canada or countries around the world? And the answer is, it's power. So what is the goal of major corporations in America? It's to be deregulated as much as possible. So in some cases, they can pollute our water, our air, our environment. It's also not to pay any taxes. Trump campaigned, as you'll recall, he said, my tax plan is not going to benefit the wealthy. It's going to benefit working people. Well, it turns out over 10 years, 83% of the benefit at the end of 10 years goes to the top 1%. That's what these guys do. I remember, I'm called the ranking member on the Budget Committee in the Senate. And some guy came forward representing, one of the big business organizations. And this is their agenda. Their agenda was to cut Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid, and to do away with all corporate taxes. So what you have right now, that's what greed is about. They want it all. So as you indicated, you have a company like Amazon, owned by Jeff Bezos, who happens to be the wealthiest guy in America, worth about $150 billion. Amazon paid zero in federal income taxes. And it's not just him. Dozens of corporations paid nothing or very, very little. And on top of all of that, you got these guys able to stash all over the world trillions of dollars in the Cayman Islands, in Bermuda, in Luxembourg, and other tax havens. That is insane, and that has got to end.
Yeah. How is it legal to do that? Why is it legal?
Joe, it is legal because they make the laws.
Right.
All right? That is what here you're touching now on the heart and soul of the tragedy of American politics. How does it happen that on issue after issue, the American people, the working class of this country, want something, nobody pays any attention to it, but billionaires want something, and it gets done? And that has to do with a corrupt political system. So right now, If you are the Koch brothers or some multi-billionaire, you say to the leadership of the Republican Party, and in some cases to the Democratic Party, hey, guess what? We're prepared to put hundreds of millions of dollars into your campaign. Hundreds of millions of dollars coming from one or two people. And here is my agenda. I want tax breaks. I want a trade system which will enable me to shut down in this country and go to China or Mexico and pay people there $2 an hour. I want to be able to do more pollution because I don't like all of this, money I have to spend preventing pollution of the air or the water. That's what I want you to do. And by the way, I'm worried about the deficit, so you may as well cut Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid. How many Americans actually believe that we should give tax breaks to billionaires and cut Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid? Very few. That is, talk to Mitch McConnell. Get Mitch on the show. That is exactly what he believes.
But that's ridiculous, right? And it seems that if you just took away those tax breaks, the enormous amount of money that would come from those corporations having to pay their fair share would take care of a lot of the expenses of all these things that you're proposing.
Exactly.
I mean, this is one of the things that attracts me to Christianity, is the idea of the first will be last, the last will be first. Is so radical. Mm-hmm. And it's literally the opposite of the survival of the fittest.
Right.
But America, why I love America is it has, the British Empire bullied it. And it stood up. We were coming here, I was asking someone in the car about the Declaration of Independence and how many Irish signatures there were, or wasn't that many, I can't remember what they were, but they were all committing treason. Mm-hmm. They were putting their lives, they were pledging their lives, their fortune, and their sacred honor. So America, the very essence of America, is this idea of sticking it to the bully.
Yeah.
And I know America can be a bully. We have our moments and all that, but it's the essence of who you are. And it happened again with the geezer with the tash.
The geezer with the tash. That's a great way of calling Hitler.
But
yeah,
you weren't having it,
right?
And I, as an activist, which we can talk about later, but I remember going to, it's only a few hours from here, but I was in Lincoln, Nebraska, and Warren Buffett came to one of it's called Heart of America tour. We were raising awareness on this pandemic, this AIDS pandemic that had killed just, 30 million people at this point, and why might America be interested? And I'm very Irish and very given it a lot of that. And afterwards I ask the sage of Omaha for any advice. And he gives me two pieces of advice, but the one was don't ask people to do something simple because they won't trust you. He said, ask them to do something complicated.
What did you mean by that?
Well, he said, what are you asking people to do here? And I said, well, I'm asking them we're asking them, the one campaign, we're asking them to send a note to their local congressperson. He said, no, don't do that. Too simple. Make them do something more difficult and they'll trust you. Maybe 10 postcards. It's harder to do. And I was like, okay. And anything else? And he said something which really changed my life and changed my conversation with this country of yours. He said, don't appeal to the conscience of America. Don't do that. Appeal to the greatness of America. Ooh. And you'll get the job done. Americans want to be great.
That is true.
I think it is true. And because in Ireland, we work with guilt. You can guilt people. Right. There's a lot of countries you can work them just, Yeah. But Americans, not. Give them the chance to be the cavalry.
Yeah.
And Omaha Beach, the heroism of Omaha Beach, the lives poured out, and to save Europe from tyranny. And that's who America is. And, I gave you the Joshua Tree because it's not just as an Irishman, but probably more because I, as an Irishman, fell under the spell of America. Even as kids, coming here, a lot of the cooler bands would just play the coasts, the cooler UK bands or European bands. But I wanted to be all over America. I mean, we opened for a wet T-shirt competition in Dallas.
What year was this?
81.
I was a freshman in high school. Wow.
We in Austin. I don't know if anyone can remember, but it was called the Club Foot. It was a bad pun, but there was no AC, and I remember it was a tin roof. And for Irish people, we were just being boiled. But I really, really great memories of just bussing it through this sort of mythical landscape. There's nowhere in this country I would want to fly over, but I do now. We got the plane, you got this, but I just remember thinking, there's so many Americas.
Yes,
but the mythology of America. I was reading, Sam Shepard. I was reading, On the Road. I was reading, all these great writers, and just opening up my imagination. That's where the Joshua Tree came from, and yeah, it's a mythology that then, can you imagine, I get to discover that in my case, it's not just a mythology. I was part of something that was extraordinary. So, former governor of Texas, George W. Bush, conservative, starts to lead the world in the fight against the AIDS pandemic, the greatest health crisis in 600 years since the bubonic plague. And I'm like, and people say, that's impossible. It's just not going to happen. And he does. And it becomes a bipartisan thing, and 26 million lives are saved. So it's strange, the way you see things. I wasn't a naive sense of America, but it was a sense that everything could be possible here. That it was somehow the landscape of America was a little more magical than everywhere else, and it wasn't just a country, America. It was an idea.
Yes. Yeah. At its greatest, that is what America is. At its greatest, it's an idea, and it's an idea that was, like I said, was founded with the concepts behind the Declaration of Independence. And those men who wrote that, the men who signed the Bill of Rights, they were so young. They were so young. Some of them were 18 years old at the time, which is so crazy.
Jefferson was 32 or 33 when he wrote that.
He's an old codger.
I mean, that's wild. And then, by the way, years later, he's in France. I think he's in Bath, and he loved wine. And this emerged. I found this out because I saw a signature in a book. I was on some tour. I like to drink red wine. I've never been to Bordeaux in my life, but I went with some people who knew their way around wine, and they asked me to sign a book in this particular vineyard, posh kind of vineyard. But this was across the road from the big name sort of thing. And I said, can I see the first book? There's Thomas Jefferson's name in the first one. I thought, wow, this guy's dreaming up America on some very fancy red plonk.
Yeah.
Not plonk, actually. Some really, there's just, but, I know there's lots of contradictions in America. And I know there was slavery still, and that he had slaves, and I understand. But I'm encouraged that America perhaps doesn't exist yet, that it's still being written. If you think about it as a song, you think about it as a piece of music, it's not finished.
Right.
It's still being written.
Yeah.
They started at those signatures.
Yeah.
You and if you let people like me stay, you know, we're still, you know, you're writing it. I'm not writing. I'm the annoying fan who follows America into the bathroom and with the liner notes, which are the declaration, going, didn't you say this here? And like, get out. Who followed me into the bathroom? It's like, but I like the idea that this is far from finished, this composition.
Yes.
And for some people, the America that is available to you and me doesn't exist yet, but it will, and it can. And
everything I did, like, you know, that I did outside of music, when I tried, like, for instance, paintball. When it went into paintball, there was a price on my head every game. Everybody wanted to give me extra shots.
Of course.
So, like, if I got hit while I'm walking out, I would get 10, 20 extra paintballs to my back.
Oh.
You know, and we'd give it right back to them. You know, in the very next game, when we played them guys again, we were making sure to give them that right back. But,
So you got deep into this.
oh, yeah, I was, man. It's addicting, man. I got to tell you, if there's any physical activity that is addicting, it is paintball, because it's chess with guns.
Yeah.
Because it's so fast and so close, and you got to think of a strategy. You know, it's not all shooting straight way. It's all shooting angles and getting your guys to positions to get those guys out to keep moving up, to get their flag, wipe them out, and bring the flag back.
Now, are there restrictions on power, like the power
Yeah.
of the guns?
Yeah. I believe you can't shoot above 300 psi. I think it's the highest you can shoot is maybe 285, 290, at least at the time.
Like, if you go balls out, if you wanted to get the ultimate paintball gun, what is that?
Oh man, it's hard because we were using different guns at the time, because it's like each year a better gun comes out. The technology gets better, so you know. We were using it first when we started these guns called Angels, and then we went over into these other guns. Fuck, I can't remember the name of them, but they were light. I mean, the best thing is to have a light gun with the trigger that you can fan, see, because that's the technique to get it to shoot like a Uzi, right? You're not supposed to be able to pull the trigger and multiple balls come out with one pull. It's supposed to be that the gun shoots as fast as your two fingers or three can toggle. So if you get a rhythm, you could shoot that thing like a fucking Uzi. You know, and everybody has a different position. You know, like mine, I was like one of the quarterbacks, which is the last three on the line. See, it's like a football field, right? You got the 50, and there's obstacles at the 50 and in between, and it's mirrored on the other side. The quarterbacks play the back, and they shoot a whole bunch of paint so that the other guys that are the front and mid guys can get into these different positions to shoot the other guys out. So the guys in the back were shooting the most paint. So you have to use that fanning style.
So you're using 3 fingers?
3 fingers, because the trigger where the base where you're pulling the trigger, you can fit 3 fingers there. Yeah, it's really for 2, but you could fit 3. Yeah, this was our team right here.
Stoned Assassins 07.
And we were always pretty stoned when we were playing.
Did that help?
Yeah. The furthest we went, we took 3rd place in one tournament.
Wow, you guys! So this is crazy. Like, you guys have these barriers and shit.
Yeah,
and
these are all blow-up barriers right here.
it looks like a football field.
Yeah, that's what they would replicate, like a football soccer field, and you know, you put all these obstacles up, these blow-up obstacles, and they're all just positions to try to take to get a better angle on the other side.
And what's the ultimate goal? To take everybody out?
It's you get points for taking the other side out, but you get the maximum points getting their flag and bringing it back to your side.
Oh.
And, you know, you get points for how many guys on your side that are still alive. So, you know, you would get 100% if all 7 of your guys were alive. You killed all of them and brought their flag back.
That ever happen?
Oh, yeah.
Damn, who are you playing?
You know,
Like, you guys crawling around and shit.
The thing about paintball, right, is that let's just say there's 6 tiers. Right? There's the pros, there's the semi-pros, there's the amateurs, there's the novice, there's the rookie. And each tier had at least 200 teams competing in this.
Wow.
per tournament. And these guys, back in that time, I don't know how it is now because I haven't competed in a long time, but they would do 5 tournaments a year. One would be in Huntington Beach, the biggest one, and it was awesome. They would throw it, right next to a surfing tournament. So like it would just be people crossing up, watching the surfers and then coming watching the paintball. Then it would hit to, Boston and Florida and Las Vegas and one other place I can't remember, but we would do these tournaments. I was doing them for like 4 or 5 years, and the guy before me that was the ambassador was one of the Bee Gees. One of the Bee Gees, the one who passed away first.
Barry Gibb? Was it Barry?
No, he was the one that always wore the hat.
Oh.
He was the shorter one.
So he was a paintball
He
fiend?
was a paintball fiend like myself. He owned a store. He had a team. I think it was based out of out of Miami, and he would compete up until when he passed away. He was like the ambassador, and
there he is.
Yeah, I came in and took his spot when
Maurice.
Maurice
Gibb. That's crazy.
Yeah.
I had no idea.
Yeah.
Wow, you guys are armored the fuck up, huh?
Yeah.
These things must sting.
Oh man, I mean, I'd leave with at least 20 paintball bruises, in one sitting, and you look like a leopard coming off after that. You know who else was a big paintball enthusiast was William Shatner.
Really?
Yeah, he would hold these crazy tournaments like in Trekkie style, where it's a scenario game, meaning that, okay, here's the castle. I'm going to be in the castle right here. You guys got to siege the castle. And if you guys can come get me out of here, you guys win this round. And they would, through the 3 days, they'd set up different scenarios. Like, there you go. See,
William Shatner playing paintball. This is crazy. I would have never guessed. But how does he run? He can't run.
Well, no,
he's like 80 years old.
He doesn't run. They put him in a central place and he'll shoot. Sometimes he would go out there, but
so he would just stay put?
Yeah, he would stay put. You would have to protect him.
That's like old man paintball.
He would fight too. He would fight too, but he would they would be trying to protect him.
Oh, that's so crazy.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I mean, there's a bunch of celebrities that paintballed, man. Will Smith was paintballing before he did iRobot.
Really?
He did that. He came down to the park where we would practice at. We played with him and his team. But it was a scenario game. Joaquin Phoenix, Mekhi Phifer. I mean, you'd be surprised how many people.
Well, it looks like fun. I guess I shouldn't be surprised.
You let off steam.
Yeah. How many people are on a team?
On a competition team, you have 11 for the roster and 7 play at a time, and you can switch guys out. But now it's different. Now they do like 5-man and 3-man teams. I don't know anything about the new style, but they constantly call me back because I'm in better shape than I was when I played. I was a little bit heavier then. That's why I was at quarterback. I wasn't running too fast then, but they always hit me, man. I'll always get hit on my DM on IG or Twitter, like, hey man, when you come back to the paintball field? I'm like, when I get time, which is probably never, but
it seems like a big time suck.
Loved it, man. I loved playing the game. It was so addicting. It was hard to pull away from it. I would even at times be coming home from a tour straight into a tournament. Like I'd get off the plane, I'd have somebody have my paintball shit ready, and boom, straight to the tournament. Can't tell you how many times I was doing that.
Really?
Yeah, it's fucking crazy.
It's funny when things get in your blood, right? They get in your bones.
Yeah, that got in my blood like martial arts did, because I was always like an enthusiast, like, for a long time, and when I finally started training, I was training like 7 days a week, man. Wow. I wouldn't give myself any time off because I wanted to learn fast and I wanted to absorb it,
Predict you better.
It's like,
I see where it's
like you're all wearing the same Dakota ring.
Yes,
right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, that is what a lot of it is. A lot of it is whether or not you believe in God or not. It's the saying that God's real and the worshiping God and the talking about God is just letting everybody know that they can predict you.
Yeah.
They know where you come. Like if you're a gentleman, you're wearing a tie with a nice suit on and pair of pants, I can fairly likely predict that you're going to be reasonably behaved.
Yeah.
You're a gentleman.
Yeah.
If you're a Christian If you're a person who calls himself a Christian, and well, we go to the Bible, we go to church every Sunday, and I like to read the Bible, and I am a Christian, and people automatically go, "Oh, okay, I kind of know where you're coming from. I can see where you are, and now I like that you can predict me because you'll like me better.
Right.
So
We don't have to talk about it. You just know already.
Yeah, I'll reinforce those patterns in your head, and I'll say some things that I've repeated things that I've heard other people say about God and Jesus, and
Yeah, and it's a nice way to kill time.
it's not a bad way.
Believing in God and going to church and stuff. It's a great you kill time, and until death nullifies all meaning.
Well, I think the community thing of it is a good thing.
Yeah.
I think there's some really powerful like bonding experiences that people have when they agree to be humble together.
Yeah. You're describing curling.
Curling,
yeah,
another
that's
great
Canadian.
another great
Canadian
That's
thing.
a sport. Look, if
There's two
can't-
C words in Canada that are very popular.
Cunt and curling.
Yeah, that's right.
And there's no way
Cunts Curling is one of the top TV shows.
you
I
cannot rise to the tops of curling without humbling yourself. Because
Right.
you humble yourself the minute you say, I'm going to go curling.
Right. When you pick up that brush
Yeah.
with a big smile on your face, decide to sweep ice.
Yeah.
I've tried curling, man. It's not easy.
No.
It's hard.
Which still doesn't make it a sport.
I made fun of it in Newfoundland, and they fucking got so mad at me.
Oh,
Because
yeah.
Don't make fun of curling, man.
The arena, the theater where I was at, like had these pictures of curlers on the wall, and I just could not stop shitting on them.
Yeah.
Did you get
They were
booed?
like, "Hey,
Oh.
hey!" They were legitimately upset. I'm like, "It is a preposterous endeavor.
Yeah.
You know it, and I know it. You're sliding a rock on the
Yeah.
ice."
Yeah.
It used to be a reason to drink. That's what curling was, where everybody would
Yeah.
get together
It still
and get
is.
wasted.
Yeah.
And you don't fall very far on the ice because you're already squatting.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and the other people are leaning against brooms.
That's right. You got a broom to lean against. It's great for
You got-
drinking.
you-
It's also like when you fall on ice, it's almost always funny.
Always.
Yeah.
It's never.
Yeah.
No one
Never
kind of
unfunny.
like catches himself.
No.
Yeah.
You don't like gently fall. Like
And
you
then
could trip.
trying to get up is good too.
No, you don't fall elegantly on ice.
Right.
No.
You could
Even
go
if-
hiking and slip a little and catch yourself.
Yeah.
Right.
But even like when you're watching the NHL and you'll see players that will just fall down.
Yeah.
Like just for no reason.
It's hilarious.
These are the best skaters in the world, and they're just
that
going
guy
to fall
just
down.
fell on his ass. He's a professional athlete.
Yeah, if I ran
This is
ahead him
bullshit.
with a Volkswagen, I couldn't knock him over.
Yeah.
Right.
But he just fell.
How
Yeah.
long has curling been around?
Hundreds and hundreds. It's a Scottish sport.
It's a Scottish sport where they used to use actual rocks they'd find in fields.
yeah,
You know?
and played on frozen lakes.
Frozen lakes.
Because that's the only kind they have in Scotland.
Yeah.
Are frozen ones.
And-
How's that Loch Ness monster getting around?
There's a lot of.
He's a wonderful curler.
David, are you Scottish, I believe?
I'm from. Yeah, I've got.
Yes.
I got the.
My
I got
wife
the whole
is
British
also
Isles.
part Scottish. I mean, there's
Yeah.
a lot of Scottish people in Canada. So you can see why curling would be popular. You know?
Yeah, very very Scottish country, Canada.
It's strange.
That's why there's so many Gords and Craigs
Gord,
and people
eh?
like that.
Gord,
Gord?
Johnson.
Oh, Gord, the
Gordy.
name?
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. That
Lot
would
of
be a
Gords.
Scottish word,
Scottish,
right?
yeah.
Gordy.
Gordon.
Yeah, and of course, because of Gordie Howe, everyone named their kids Gord.
I went to school with a guy named Gregor.
60s.
I mean, that was his first name.
People who are talking about AI automating programming have never really written serious code. Coding is thinking. It's automatic structured thinking. An AI that can program as well or better than humans is an AI that just took over the world. That's endgame. That's the end of the human species. And I can give you arguments why I don't think that's coming either. People who are thinking, and I know I take the opposite side from some very famous people in this debate, but we're nowhere near close to general AI. Not in our lifetimes. You don't have to worry about it.
Even in our lifetimes. Really?
It's so overblown. It's a combination of Cassandra complex. You know, it's fun to talk about the end of the world, combined with a God complex, like people who have lost religion, so they're looking for meaning in some kind of end of history.
Right.
The reason why I don't think AI is coming anytime soon is because a lot of the advances in so-called AI today are what we call narrow AI. They're really in pattern recognition, machine learning to figure out like what is that object on the screen, or how do you find this signal in all of that noise. There's nothing approaching what we call creative thinking. To actually model general intelligence, you run into all kinds of problems. First, we don't know how the brain works at all. Number 2, we've never even modeled a paramecium or an amoeba, let alone a human brain. Number 3, there's this assumption that all of the computation is going at the cellular level, at the neuron level, whereas nature is very parsimonious. It uses everything at its disposal. There's a lot of machinery inside the cell that is doing calculations, that is intelligent, that isn't accounted for. And the best estimates are it would take 50 years of Moore's law before we can simulate what's going on inside a cell near perfectly, and probably 100 years before we can build a brain that can simulate inside the cells. So putting it at saying that I'm just going to model a neuron as on or off and then use that to build a human brain is overly simplistic. Furthermore, I would posit there's no such thing as general intelligence. Every intelligence is contextual within the context of the environment that it's in. So you have to evolve an environment around it. So I think a lot of people who are peddling general AI, the burden of proof is on them. I haven't seen anything that would lead me to indicate we're approaching general AI. Instead, we're solving deterministic, closed-set, finite problems using large amounts of data. But it's not sexy to talk about that.
If you're talking about mirroring the actual abilities of cells, or are you talking about recreating the actual mechanism? Like what is going on inside cells and biological organisms?
Yeah, we just don't know how intelligence works.
Right. We don't know.
We literally have no idea. So most of the AI approaches basically say we're going to try and model how the brain works, but they model at the neuron level, which is saying this neuron's on, that neuron's off.
Right.
They're combining their signal. But I'm saying the neuron is a cell. Inside the cell, there's all this machinery going on that's operating the neuron that is also part of the intelligence apparatus. You can't just ignore that and abstract that out. You have to model it down to the inside the cell level.
It's also a part of the biological organism itself.
Exactly.
And it has all these needs that, the biological organism has to have food and rest, and
Exactly.
there's a balance going on. But when you eliminate all that, when there is none of that, and
Yeah.
it's just calculations, and we get to a point where it's just this thing that we've created, whether you call it a computer, whether it doesn't have to be a moving thing even, but a thing that you've created that stores virtually all the information that's available in the world, stores all of the patterns of all the thinking of all the great people that have ever lived, all the writers, all the people that have ever published anything, all the people that have ever spoken any words, stores all of their points, all of their counterpoints, all their contradictions, applies logic and reason and some sort of sense of the future, and starts improving upon these patterns, and then starts acting on its own based on the information that it's been provided with.
Well, first you would have to actually simulate a structure of the human brain that can hold all that information. You're basically talking about tens of thousands of brains worth of information.
Right.
We can't even build one brain the next decade or 2 or 3.
Well, in terms of an actual physical brain, yes. But what about something that recreates the abilities of a brain?
Like I said, nature is parsimonious. So we've got this 3-pound wetware object that can hold all this data. Nature has been very efficient in evolving kind of how we get there. I just don't think computers are anywhere close to that. Like they can hold that amount of data with that complexity, with like the holographic structure of the brain where it can recall in many, many different ways. And then I don't think you can evolve a creature to be intelligent outside of the boundaries of feedback in a real medium. Like if you raised a human being in a concrete cell with no input from the outside, they wouldn't have any feedback from the real world. They wouldn't evolve properly. So I think just dumping information into a thing isn't enough. It has to have an environment to operate in to get feedback from. It needs to have context.
But isn't that biological? I mean, if you have just all the information that people have accumulated and the lessons that people have learned, and you program that into the computer. Like if we can take a computer that can beat someone at chess, the real question was, well, can we make some sort of an artificial intelligence that can beat someone at Go, which is far more complex than chess? They figured out how to do that too, and that was a giant shock, right?
These are still man-made, very closed, bounded games. They're not on the road to the unbounded game of life. They are completely artificial.
But didn't that give you like a little bit of a pause?
A little bit. Go or League of Legends or Fortnite. They're not completely deterministic.
Right.
but they're still very artificial, very bounded games. Being good at Go doesn't mean that you can then suddenly figure out how to write great poetry.
Right. The creativity, for sure, is something that's
So creativity is the last frontier. So I do believe that automation over a long enough period of time will replace every non-creative job or every non-creative work. But that's great news. That means that all of our basic needs are taken care of, and what remains for us is to be creative, which is really what every human wants.
Yeah.
When what are you doing right now? This is a creative job.
Sure.
Right?
It gets back to where we started talking about there will always be a part of me that is making music because it's really maybe the only place where I'm truly free. You know what I mean? I have the freedom. You know, it's funny. I tell this story. We were on Saturday Night Live 2 times. The second time was on our second album, Southern Harmony. And we went on the show. It was the #1 album in America. It debuted at #1. Our new single was a song called Sometimes Salvation. We were going to play that. And we were going to play one of our big hit records. And at the time, it was called Remedy. And we had just written this song called Nonfiction. And I was like, let's play Nonfiction. And it's funny because it's different as my brother and I, Rich, was like, yeah, fuck it. You know what I mean? Like, it's a cool song. The guy, whoever was the music guy, he was like, you can't do that. And I was like, well, I mean, we can do what we want, I think. He was mad because we were smoking weed in the dressing room. I'm like, didn't John Belushi OD in the bathroom? I'm like, what do you fucking care? Call the cops.
Yeah.
I told him, call the cops. We get arrested in Saturday Night Live for smoking weed. It'll be bigger than this. But the guy, now that I'm older, I realize I was just totally being just horrible, like, kid. But he goes, you're making a big mistake not playing this single. And I said, okay, well, here's the deal. You're on this show next week with some other fucking band. And then the next week after that. And then the next week after that. Well, this is my band. So let me make the mistake. I'm not going to let you tell us what to do. And if it's a mistake, then we'll fucking eat it, won't we? And I'm still here.
And where's he?
Well, it's funny. Someone told me he has I forget his name. I ran into him once before. He did not like our attitude. He was on a podcast about Saturday Night Live or something and said we were the worst people he ever dealt with in his entire career there. And I was like, well, thank you.
That's funny. The worst how? Because you just didn't listen to him?
Yeah, we didn't do what he wanted.
Yeah, that's not what you're supposed to do with artists.
Especially when you're young and you're still like, the fire is like so intense. You know what I mean?
That's always the problem with executive mindsets versus artistic mindsets, right? And a producer character who just wants everything to go according to this very specific plan they have laid out. And you're trying to take an artist, and first of all, just trying to take an artist and making them sing one song is kind of crazy, right? It's like,
I mean, I think we see that now.
Yeah.
You know, we see people are like, I'll do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's someone who's ready to jump up and do anything. And I think that's been a part of showbiz. But that's kind of what we were saying before. I think the talent show thing, the vote for me.
right.
You know what? No one was voting for us.
Right,
We were
right.
unvotable.
Right.
And that was part of the reason that we were drawn to these characters and these people and these other outsiders and these other whatever kind of spectrum we're on or whatever that's different, that we were like, music to us represented everything anti-vote for me.
But did it feel weird to transcend that and become mainstream massive?
Yes,
I mean,
it's
you
still
guys,
weird
Like,
sometimes.
what is the juxtaposition? I mean, it has to be so strange. You're these rebels, and then all of a sudden, you're the #1 fucking band in the world.
And then, and it was tough. It was maybe tougher for me because I was more boots on the ground in the scene and with people. And now it's like, especially in the 80s in Atlanta, it was like, fuck anyone who signs with a major label, man, fuck them. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
and I'm like, like power to the people or whatever, and then it's like you're on MTV 30 times a day and in between fucking Toyota commercials and Snapple or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, so, and it's weird because our politics are so in line with so many of the alternative politics of music, the way, that would the grunge or whatever, and all, so I'm the same age as all of the grunge bands, but I don't exist in the 90s in the same way. We weren't, you know what I mean?
Right,
Because we were
right.
doing something. But it is funny, like, people say, well, no fucking label is signing a Kurt Cobain today. But as a matter of fact, Kurt and our generation of people we were talking about compliance and defiance. You're making a mistake. Fuck it. It's my mistake to make. It's my band. It's my art. And people and my kind of generation. It's not about being old, but now I think there's so much compliance. Okay, I don't want to cause any trouble at the record label.
We're all distorted right now with social media and all the different avenues for people to get attention and to get famous. It's so easy. I shouldn't say it's easy because it's rare but common. So it's like it's more highlighted which way you can go to achieve success.
I mean, we loved the Replacements. That was like and like their being on Saturday Night Live was a disaster. But we thought that's our band. I remember every fucking person that we knew in Atlanta that Saturday night that the Replacements came on and made in TV on Saturday Night Live. We all were at parties and watching it and getting completely shit-faced. Watching, they like shaved their eyebrows off and shit and were rolling around and changed clothes. And people were like, oh dear. We were like, yeah, cheering it on. Like, that's it. Isn't that part of one of the goals is to be that big of a pain in the ass to the... And who are you being a pain in the ass to? But some authority.
Right.
Something that says you can't do that or this is the way it goes. And that changes, But I think as a youth, that's definitely something I'm not feeling with a lot of bands. I mean, I think it's there in like the punk scene and stuff like that, but they're not getting access to them. Green Day is still that way, I feel.
The carrot is still dangled right in front of everybody's faces, so close now. Especially with people that make it independently through YouTube and TikTok and all these different venues. There's just so many different ways that someone could become massively successful now.
See, this is where I become the time traveler. I am from the last century.
Yeah.
I get it. I find, I think a guy smashing his nuts on a rail on a skateboard is as funny as anyone, but I've seen it. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
It's not like, you know what I mean? It's not like Steve Coogan or something. You know what I mean? Like the craft and like subtext and like all this other weird cerebral stuff with comedy or whatever. I just don't, I will never... it's just me as well. The things the cinema that I enjoy, the books I read, the records that I listen to, there is all of them. If there's one thing in common, there's a level of craft.
There's a difference between having a fine meal at a very nice restaurant versus eating garbage.
Yeah.
Eating tasty garbage. And TikTok is tasty garbage.
Yeah, you're right. That's absolutely, I've never thought about it like that.
It's bad for you. And you can't put it down, and you keep going to it, and you overconsume it.
And at least when it's just visual, you don't get a big stain on your shirt.
But you get a stain. I think you get a stain on your brain.
Soul.
Yeah, I really do. Not even a false flag, but allowing something to happen or having knowledge. I'm not attached to this at all. I don't even agree with it myself.
Right.
I'm just saying that this is like a concept that people throw around. Like,
so in counter to that concept, I would argue Netanyahu was elected just before this whole judicial reform thing happened. The fact that the left was protesting, it doesn't mean that Netanyahu was in kind of an existential situation. His base loved him. If anything, the protests fired up his base even more.
So it was kind of like the Women's March after Trump won.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
It was bigger than that. I want to give it credit. It was bigger than that. It was dividing Israeli society more than that. But Netanyahu didn't, even from that situation, however precarious it was, his situation immediately got worse after October 7th because everyone blamed him. And it's only gotten worse in the past few months if you look at the polling on approval of Netanyahu. So if it was a false flag, it'd be the dumbest false flag in the world. And he's not a dumb guy. So there's no chance it's a false flag.
So the other conspiracy theory would be that they had foreknowledge of it, but they allowed it to happen. This is one that gets attached to 9/11 as well, right?
Yes, it gets attached to everything, and
of course.
But I mean, my thing with that is, if you're in a country like Israel, if you're the Mossad or the Shin Bet, you have Hamas, Hamas in Gaza, Hamas in the West Bank, Palestinian Islamic Jihad, Hezbollah, Iran, Houthis, and so on. And you're basically getting every single day, you're getting a list of 14, 15 different threats and plans on Israel, right? Some of them small, some of them huge. How do you distinguish between the ones that are likely to happen and the ones are not? This is a very difficult thing. It's not obvious, right? You use your intelligence. You try to have spies in all the Palestinian areas that are informing and so forth, but you're constantly getting signals of threats all the time, right? So to say they knew about it, is not the same as they might have gotten information about. They did get information about a plan to attack at some point. They didn't know it was going to happen on October 7th. They didn't know the scale of it or how successful it was going to be.
How was it so successful if they have the most sophisticated surveillance system?
How was it so successful?
Why?
Well,
how were they able to pull that off?
So it was partly because normally Israel would have lots of IDF stationed on the border with Gaza because there's a wall there, but they would normally have they had very few soldiers there because they were distracted, the whole country divided over these protests. The soldiers were in the West Bank. Oh. And this is one of the reasons why people blame Netanyahu, because it was under his watch that they took their eye off Hamas. Now, this is where it goes to the first theory, that Netanyahu wanted to keep Hamas in power. One of the reasons why he thought he benefited, and I guess he did benefit from Hamas staying in power, is that they believed Hamas was deterred. In other words, they believed mistakenly, partly because Hamas was sending these signals for years, that Hamas, it doesn't want to fight us right now. Right now, they're focused on taking all our money and taking the world's money and building stuff in Gaza. And Hamas was very smart. They allowed Israel to believe that while they planned this whole thing. So they got complacent, essentially. And this happens with groups all the time. I mean, like, they fought with Hezbollah in 2006, but the assumption has been that Hezbollah hasn't really made a major plans to attack full scale, even though their army is way stronger than Hamas. I mean, Hezbollah has an incredibly strong army. But Israelis assume that because we bombed them so bad in 2006, and they told us, if we knew, the leader of Hezbollah said this, if they knew how badly you were going to come after us because of our raid in 2006, we never would have done it. Signaling that essentially Hezbollah is not going to do anything, even though they hate Israel, even though their whole organization started to fight Israel, they're not going to do anything right now. And this is when you have a country with that many security threats on all sides, they sometimes rely on this notion that these people are deterred because they know what will happen to them if they attack, and so they won't attack. And that's what they thought was true of Hamas, and that's why they were giving Hamas money and increasing the amount of Palestinians that could come to Gaza and so forth. So it was all a tragic miscalculation, but it was not a false flag.
It's just a crazy thing that you've done, and it begs the question: when you do crazy things, like, does this change you as a person? Does, like, walking across Antarctica is one, rowing across the Drake Stretch, is it what's called? Drake Passage is another. Like, is this changing you as a person? Like, what are these? Because these are experiences where if you told someone, hey, you're going to sleep 90 minutes at a clip, and then you're going to row for 90 minutes, and you're going to poop into a bucket, and you're going to sleep like a sardine with a bunch of other dudes on this boat. You're not going to sleep much. You're probably going to hallucinate. Sometimes you're going to row in the dark.
Sing songs.
Yeah, but you'll get through it, though. A couple weeks later, you'll be done.
Yeah.
Like, these are weird things that you're doing that's sort of changing. Like, your personal life experiences are so much more extreme than the average person's.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, one of my reasons for doing this for sure is to test the limits of my own potential and grow. I'm not doing them just to like, so that I can be the exact same person on the other side of Antarctica or the other side of Drake Passage. It's to take that learning. And, you know, I've been asked like a similar question, I guess, before, but my answer, or the way that I kind of think about it, is I've started to think about life like how do I put this? I've started thinking about life and the totality of life experience between, like, say, a numerical 1 and 10. Like 1 being the worst day of your life and 10 being the best day of your life. And, you know, 1 might be, you know, a day that a family member passes away, or 1 might be being wet and cold and freezing in an ocean rowboat, you know, spooning with this other guy and, you know, been shit in a bucket and being exhausted and tired, you know, like just like rough moments in your life, right? And 10 is this hedonistic joy, the most pleasure-filled day ever, just happy, joyful, maybe you've succeeded in something, you've accomplished, like all this kind of stuff. And as I've kind of looked around at the world, people say, what are you afraid of? You must not be afraid of being alone, or you must not be afraid of, you know, these hard challenges or stuff like that. I'm like, maybe not. But what I'm really afraid of is actually living a life range bound between 4 and 6. I think too often people, you know, the typical life experience, unfortunately, because we have some creature comforts, particularly in the Western world, where, you know, you can live a life and you're stuck between 4 and 6. So maybe the happiest day of your year, your week, it's like the Super Bowl and your team wins the Super Bowl and you crush a couple beers with your buddy and you high five and you're like, oh, that was awesome. Like, that was cool. But it's not 10. I mean, it's a 6. And then like maybe the worst day of your week, it's like a Monday and your boss yells at you or something like that. And you're just like, oh man, like that's kind of bummer. But you know what? I don't really give a shit about my job anyway. So like, I'm not really that bummed about it. It just like is like, I'm just kind of like in this like life of like quiet desperation in the middle. And I think a lot of that has to do with because we're hedging or we're afraid of the ones. We're just like, I don't want to experience a 1. I don't want to experience discomfort. I don't want to experience pain, like anything to do that. But what I've realized, I think of it like kind of a pendulum, like swinging the totality of life experience. Like to get to the 10s, you also need to embrace the 1s. Like the totality of life and the experience. I'm not experiencing these high highs or these hedonistic joys or these beautiful flow states or things like that, you know, in spite of the 1s, in spite of the challenge, but it's because of them.
Yeah.
By pulling my sled, you know, 53 days, on my 53rd day of pulling my sled across Antarctica, I get there, my hips are poking out, my ribs are sticking out, I'm exhausted. I can barely pick my duffel bag up to put it in my sled. My body's completely compromised. I'm exhausted. But then I tap into the deepest flow state of my entire life. I find this place in my mind, in my body, in my soul. And, you know, I pushed 32 hours without stopping to the finish line. And I wouldn't have gotten there had I not pushed myself, had I not, you know, gone through this difficulty. You know, I like to say that, you know, pain is mandatory. These challenges are painful, straight up. Pain is mandatory. Make no mistake about this. Obvious things I'm doing are painful, they're hard, whatever. But the suffering part is optional.
Yeah.
You know, you don't have to be in these moments so wound up, be like, oh my God, this is horrible, I'm in this, and why did I get myself out there? This is terrible, blah, 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 and go down this path. You're like, I'm doing this because when I step outside of my comfort zone, I grow. And as I grow, I can share that with other people and hopefully have that ripple effect of positivity and inspiration that's lasting in the world for others as well.
Yeah, you mentioned one of my favorite quotes ever, the Thoreau quote, most men live lives of quiet desperation.
I love that, yeah.
That's a great fucking quote and so damn true. I think you're right. I think you really need very difficult things in your life in order to appreciate real comfort and relaxation.
Absolutely.
I don't think you hit it if your whole life is just soft cushions and everything's made out of velour and people are feeding you grapes. I think you live like an asshole.
Yeah.
I think you know, we don't like that because no one really, suffering is hard. It's hard. It feels uncomfortable. But you don't realize that unless you suffer, you don't appreciate calm. You don't appreciate peace. I think there's just far too many people out there seeking comfort.
I agree with that. And I think that it's funny because people are going towards that. They're hedging against discomfort. Like, okay, well, how to make this as comfortable as possible. And then they sit there and they're like, why am I unsatisfied? Why am I not happy? Never. And it's like, because you're hedging against discomfort, because you're trying to make, like you said,
it's poor education, really. People are not educated on what it takes in order to be fulfilled in life. The idea is that material possessions or some modicum of success is the goal. It's not. You know, difficult tasks is what make you do something that's hard to do something that's interesting, do something that's complicated and intricate, do something that requires you to stretch your boundaries. What are you going to do next? Because I know you. You're one of those dudes. You have to keep doing these things.
I don't know.
Once you've done 2 of these things, you're going to keep doing these things.
Yeah, I did a couple before that too.
Yeah.
But I think last time your advice to me was stop.
Stop while you're alive.
Yeah.
But you didn't listen, obviously, so don't listen to me anymore anyway. Just keep doing what you got to do.
Look, like, I'm passionate about these things. It's super fun. I do them because I like testing the edges of my potential. I like exploring different places. Like I said, I'd never rowed a boat before, and to kind of take this project on and say, I've done expeditions before. I've pushed my body in, deep and interesting ways. But one of my biggest curiosities is certainly about the mind, but, particularly like growth mindset. Can I say, like, I'm not a rower, but in the course of a year of training, I'm going to train myself up, get on a team with some amazingly, accomplished watermen and learn the skills required to, make this crossing. And it was cool to kind of prove that out this year, because I think that really applies across so many things. And I'm just a generally curious person. And I think I'll keep pushing myself and pushing my body, because that's one of the things that I love to do. But I think that curiosity throughout my life is going to be, a lifelong path of diving into sort of different things and taking them on. I think that, to me, one of my biggest sadnesses, and one of the things I like to say to people is, like, people come to a certain point in their life and they're like, I'm a lawyer, or I'm good at math, or I'm terrible at art, or like I could never do comedy because I'm not the funny one, or I'm like, these limiting beliefs inside of us. It's like, I could be like, dude, I've never rowed ever in my life. I'm 34 years old, I've never rowed a boat, but actually doesn't mean I can't learn now to row a boat.
Seems pretty straightforward.
Yeah, exactly. How hard could it be? You get a little leg action too.
What did you do to prepare for it physically?
So the physical prep was pretty cool. I don't know if you remember from last time, but I have this coach. His name's Mike McCassell, and he's just this legendary guy. He's done 5,800 pull-ups in 24 hours. He's pulled a truck across Death Valley. Yeah, he's a total legend. And he trained me up for Antarctica. I mean, I came to him and I said, hey, look, like, I'm not the most experienced polar explorer. I got to pull this 375-pound sled. Like, what do you think? How can you train me up? And he came up with such cool training methodologies for that. Like, he had one of the things he had me doing for Antarctica was he had me, I was doing planks with my hands in ice buckets, and as my heart rate's getting jacked up, he's having me hold that, and all of a sudden he's like, all right, get out, and I'm doing a wall sit, but now my feet are in the ice buckets, and he puts a weight plate on top of my legs, and he's like, okay, and then he hands me these Legos, and he's like, solve these Lego problems, and until you don't solve this Lego and build this little, like, aircraft, little Lego man or whatever, you can't get your feet out of the ice bucket. I'm like, what the hell is going on? But he's like, look, you're going to be in Antarctica. Your life is going to depend on you, securing your tent right, or tying down the ropes properly, or this and that and the other thing. You're going to be cold. Your hands are going to be frozen. You're going to be tired, but you're going to need your mind and your dexterity to be there. There's a picture of that, of Mike bringing me through that. And so with the row, it was super cool to come to him again and say, like, hey man, like, there's no blueprint for this. Like, there's no blueprint for this. There's no one that's done a fully human powered crossing of Drake Passage before to the Antarctic Peninsula. Like, there's some ocean rowers, but this is different. Like, how should we prepare for this? And Mike, it's not like he's like, well, I know everything about ocean rowing, but that same curiosity, that same growth mindset, I trust his, sort of ability to train me. He's like, I don't know, man, like, let's start thinking through this. And so in the gym, I mean, we did all sorts of creative things. He brought the ice back. He started putting a rowing machine on Bosu balls, like half Bosu balls basically, and I'd start rowing, do the normal rowing motion, but he'd start shaking it around because basically the ocean is going to be moving me around so much, so just the rowing motion isn't going to prepare me for the lateral movements, the lats, the obliques, all the kind of side-to-side stability stuff. Then he took it one step further, which is he actually shows up at my house, knocks on my door at 2 o'clock in the morning. I think he had prearranged it with my wife, knocks on the door, and he's like, get up. And I'm like, what's happening? And he's like, we're training right now. And he gets me, he's got those Bosu balls, but now it's the middle of the night, so I'm sleep deprived, or I'm kind of disoriented. Now he's got me on the Bosu balls, and he had brought these buckets of ice water. So I'm rowing this thing, it's shaking around, it's the middle of the night, and he starts throwing ice water on me, and we're doing these laps. Yeah, here I am, getting into this. You could check these out. The Discovery Channel did like
It says Training for the Drake, The Impossible Row, Episode 3. You could find it online. Jamie, it's on the Discovery Channel YouTube page.
YouTube, they have a whole playlist with all these videos.
Yeah, so there's
Great.
14 of these videos, training all the way through the whole Project Discovery, put them online. They're actually doing a feature-length documentary this spring. But
What did you do for rowing, for the specific muscles of rowing yourself? Did you lift weights? Did you do rows? Did you use a rowing machine? What'd you use?
Yeah, so the rowing machine on the Bosu balls, that's like in the gym. Also, a lot of deadlift was really useful. And then a lot of stability stuff. So Mike would have me do certain things, like we'd have, like a seated row or something like that. Or one of the things I thought that was the most interesting, because it was going to be stable. So the waves are usually coming from, they change directions, but at any given time, they're coming generally from one direction. So you're either leaning in really hard to your left side, or you're leaning in really hard to your right side. That's a difference to the ocean rowing than just like a pure river rowing. And he would have me basically like holding, imagine like a deadlift bar, and then I would have my eyes closed. I'd be holding it there in kind of an isometric motion, and then he would pull the plate, a light plate, off one of the sides, and so I'd have to stabilize and catch, either my left side or my right side. So a lot of stabilization and balance stuff. And then the other piece that was huge, Mike, admittedly doesn't know a lot about rowing specifically in terms of the technique of rowing, and the technique of rowing is actually very specific. And so a friend of mine, a guy named Chris Wojda from Portland, I called him up, and he's like this champion rower, collegiate rower, rowing coach, and he took me out on the Willamette River in Portland in a single man like rowing scull. So very different than an ocean rowboat. Ocean rowboat's a lot bigger, different waves, but he taught me on the river the actual purity of the rowing motion. So a lot of the training and the physical aspects of getting stronger was with Mike, and the mindset and the ice and all the things we did there. But certainly the stuff that we did on the river in the Willamette with Chris was huge for me to actually understand the motion, because I just like you, when you're like, how hard can it be? And you just kind of push your arms back and forth. It's a pretty complicated motion. It's a full body thing. It's coordinated. It's a very coordinated thing. You're powering out of different things, and certainly on river rowing, you're having to, square. It's called squaring the blades, and you're taking the blades out of the water and turning them so they can slide across the top and get back in and glide and all that kind of stuff. So there's a lot to the motion, and so it was a short period of time. I didn't take my first stroke in a rowboat until July in the river, and then August in the ocean rowboat when we came together as a team for the first time to train in Scotland, and then I was rowing across the Drake in December. So it was a pretty short period of time to kind of learn about rowing and get stronger, but it was a fun process to dive into something completely new.
Let's talk about your tournament.
The tournament. All right.
Where did this come from, first of all? Because you've competed at Abu Dhabi. This is what I don't understand. You're gonna go head to head with ADCC, which is the biggest grappling organization in the world. By the way, that's Gordon Ryan's belt up there, if you want to look at it.
Gordon Ryan. Oh, man, I might take that home with me, yeah. How can I got the money to buy it? Well, I mean, what started it? Well, obviously you can't win a tournament. You put your own tournament on that you can win. And probably lose anyway. I mean, really, it's for the growth of the sport. We're getting some beef involved, some Tupac Biggie, Drake Kendrick energy to this, but really to compensate the athletes well and to raise some money for charity along the way.
And who's funding this thing?
That's one of those things, your girl takes a trip to the UAE, she comes back with a handbag, you don't talk about it, you don't ask too many questions, You
brought with you $1 million in cash, which I've never seen before. I've never seen $1 million in one place. I've never even seen $1 million check.
Should we tip this out?
Yeah, I guess tip it out. Let's make sure we don't spill any. Ladies and gentlemen, that is $1 million in cash.
Falls stays.
That is so ridiculous. Look at that. That's so crazy. Wow. Whoever is running this really trusts you.
They shouldn't.
Those are loose. They're like, a lot of these are just kind of flying around.
Flopping around here,
Yeah,
They have way too much faith in me.
Yeah, a lot of faith in you.
I mean, this was to prove it. I had the idea. I was like, I'll bring a prop $1 million on Joe Rogan. But I was thinking then, they already don't believe I have the money. So if I pulled out a prop $1 million and you were like, oh, that's fake money, then I'm like, oh, my tournament's fucked. So we had to had to do some bad things for that.
So how's one even get $1 million out of a bank? That's got to be a pain in the ass, right?
Yeah, so my buddy that's helping me out with this basically called his bank. He said, I need $1 million on Thursday. They said, yo, that takes 2 to 3 weeks. And he's like, get me the $1 million on Thursday or I'll find a bank that can. And that put the energy in him to get it. Here we are.
So what does this guy do that he has all this loot?
I really don't want to say. I'm going to keep it all directed at me. It's all above board legal, you know what I mean? But we're sort of keeping it mysterious. I want any negative energy towards the tournament come in my direction, not the anonymous sugar daddy in the background.
Okay. So you don't want to say like what the business is, or does the business profit off of this at all? Does this benefit the business to do this? Whatever he's doing? Their business?
I mean, we're running it as a non-profit. So, like, obviously for people that want to support the sport of jiu-jitsu, like, we're going to donate basically all the ticket sales of this event towards different charities. So we really want to do this as a non-profit, because my thoughts were, if jiu-jitsu doesn't make a profit, we might as well make a non-profit.
Okay. Well, does jiu-jitsu make no profit? Like, Abu Dhabi doesn't turn a profit, right? It's done primarily because of the sheikh's love of the sport.
It's like a passion project. But I mean, sort of, my problem with the latest event is like, we're selling so many tickets, and their event is in T-Mobile. Mm-hmm. T-Mobile's super expensive. As far as I know, I remember their event organizer posted the amount they paid for T-Mobile, and it was basically 2 of these. So I was
just to rent out the venue.
Just to rent out,
and then you were at the Thomas and Mack.
Yeah. So the previous event they were at Thomas and Mack. So I just thought, hey, I might as well check how much Thomas and Mack costs, and it was a lot cheaper. So in my opinion, we're really doing this because the prize money's been the same for so long. A lot of events don't pay a lot of money, but obviously ADCC is the biggest,
right?
And this sells a lot of ticket sales, but really, they made a lateral move in the venue that didn't really grow much in the way of seating, and none of that money really.
How much does Thomas and Mack seat?
I think we'll have about 11,000 seats for this one.
And T-Mobile's what, 18?
I think 18, yeah. So not massive difference, and really ADCC prize money stayed the same. So their prize money, you have to win 4 matches to get 10K. Not that I'd know, because I could never fucking win it, but we're going to do 2 divisions and pay 100 times that amount of money to the division winners.
So 10K is the winner of ADCC.
And we're going to pay $10,001 to show up to that tournament.
10,001.
We'll throw an extra $1. That's okay. For me personally.
So anybody who competes gets $10,000. Really? So even if you just get smoked.
Yeah, I mean, I'm thinking of the other guys like me in these tournaments that don't make the final, compensate everyone, you know?
Well, that is nice, but ADCC's never made money, right? So for them, raising the money would just be losing more money.
Yeah, I mean, but if you could sell 11,000 seats, you know what I mean? Like, if you could sell streaming rights to an event, I feel like some of that should go back towards the athletes rather than just spending it all on production. Like, a lot of people talk about the cost of production, and it's important to grow a sport, but I really feel like at least the athlete compensation should go up a little bit. You know, like in terms of ticket sales, some of that should go back towards the athletes.
Even if the ADCC is not making any money at all?
But in terms of, they do make money, but it's where they spend it. They choose to spend it on production rather than the athletes.
Right, but it's not profitable. Like, it's, in terms of the organization itself, is not really profitable, I don't believe.
Well, I would imagine if they had chose Thomas and Mack with the streaming rights and the cost of the venue, like that they've spent on T-Mobile, for sure they would have made a profit off this event. You could curtail production costs down. Like, it's not going to be that crazy if you choose the right venue. My opinion is grappling's amazing, but I don't think we're ready for T-Mobile. That's a massive, expensive venue.
Right. Well, the Thomas and Mack was very impressive last year. It was very impressive, the whole overall production and just the scope of it, and the amount of fans that came out to watch ADCC. It was pretty impressive.
It's crazy, yeah. It's crazy. Obviously,
yeah.
I've never competed in front of that many people before. It was awesome. It was an awesome spectacle. And that was basically my opinion. Is like, why are we making a lateral move, in my opinion, when we could still keep the same venue?
So what was the idea about going head-to-head with ADCC? If you want to grow the sport, wouldn't it be better to do it in an alternative weekend? That way the people that compete at ADCC can also compete at your event?
Well, obviously athletes can't do both, but in terms of for the fans will be able to go to our event Friday, Saturday, still see ADCC finals on Sunday. But in terms of doing it at the same weekend, we're really trying to make a stand that like the athletes can unify in this sense, and we can get compensated better. Because again, none of the athletes care where we compete. You know what I mean? Like we want to make as the sport grows, grappling's growing. Obviously, thanks to people like you, you've blown it up. Whenever you shout us out, our followers go up. So, I mean, the events are getting more eyes on it. People are more ticket sales. Like we should get at least some token gesture of a payment increase.
Well, I think the best case scenario out of this is that ADCC does ramp it up and that the sport does get more eyeballs because people are aware of this huge increase in pay. And then look, I always feel like competition is good. I just don't necessarily like the idea of going head to head because I feel like it just kind of messes with the athletes because it puts them in a situation where they have to choose, first of all, between ADCC and the Craig Jones Invitational. And if they do that, ADCC is going to probably hold a grudge.
I mean, hopefully not.
Well, hopefully they
don't hold a grudge to me.
But likely they will. I mean, doesn't it make sense that they would? I mean, if you're kind of crippling their organization by taking the elite guys and offering them potential for, like, how many people are going to jump ship? Do you know?
Oh, I mean, who have we got confirmed already? We've got Fionn Davies, past champion. The Tackett brothers were the first two. We've got Nicky Ryan. I'm going to announce today Nicky Rod's jumping across. We got Luke Rockhold in there. We threw him in because he's honestly pretty impressive. He tapped me out in the gym. I was like, fuck it, we'll throw him in. In terms of the under, we got Joseph Chen. So, I mean, a lot of people are going to make the move. And what's interesting to me, I can't say any names in particular, but a lot of the old legends obviously want to be a part of this event. I think they want to support the cause. You know, I mean, and you say make the athletes make a choice. I mean, really, they should be able to make the choice if there's an event with such a huge amount of prize money on display. You know, the argument is prestige versus prize money, and my argument is if the prize money's there, that becomes the most prestigious event.
Yeah, it does. It does ramp up the prestige, but will this happen again? Is this a one-time thing, or are you guys planning on doing multiple ones of these?
Yeah, we want to do it. We don't ADCC every 2 years, so most of the time the guys have to wait every 2. We want to do it every year.
Well, that would be good. Then there'd be a year where it's not in competition.
We don't want to just kill another organization and then I just disappear off into the sunset, maybe sneak a couple million, but we want to do it every year for sure. The goal is really to raise money for charities and do some film projects around the world using jiu-jitsu, really helping out some underprivileged kids and stuff.
Well, the whole idea of using it for charity is beautiful. That's amazing. But is this guy willing to fork up this kind of, like, does he have a commitment to do this more than once?
I mean, basically he says, hey, we do a good job of this one, you can do it every year. He's super invested in sport of jiu-jitsu, loves it.
And this guy's just throwing loot away.
Throwing a lot of loot away. Thank God. Thank God.
That's a crazy thing to commit to, though. I mean, even no matter how rich you are. I mean, because if you're giving away $3 million in prize money, is that what it is?
Yeah, so
how's it go all together?
We basically got a budget of $3 million, and we decided to give $2.3 million of that to the athletes, and the rest we're going to spend on production. Obviously, we're going to have sponsors come in. We're going to work with particular sponsors, but we're going to, again, the ticket sales, that's going to charity, and we're really allowing some of the athletes to choose. Like if we have an influential grappler and stuff, we're not really trying to leverage the money we have. We're saying, hey, if we get you on board, we're happy to donate a percentage of the ticket sales to a charity of your choice. So we give them a bit of freedom in who they want to help.
Well, that's nice. And if this does go well, like what's the when you say go well, like what are the guidelines? What are you trying to achieve in terms of like going well to do this again?
I mean, based on the investment and how much money we can raise for charity is really the goal there. Like if we can sell out Thomas and Mac and we can demonstrate that we can do this in a cost-effective way, we can bring in more sponsors, definitely going to keep doing this every year.
Well, like I said, I think competition is always great. And I think just more eyeballs and more people paying attention to it is great for the sport. Obviously, I love jiu-jitsu. And I think, the athletes getting paid $1 million to win first place is fantastic. I mean, because, we both know that most athletes don't make much money off of actual competition. The money that they do make, they usually make in seminars and...
OnlyFans.
Yeah, that's you.
Yeah, that's a lot of underwear I had to sell,
OnlyFans and what else? I guess DVDs.
Yeah, I mean, that's the number one revenue source for athletes would be instructionals. But, like, again, that's like, you can win the biggest tournaments in the world. It doesn't necessarily translate to seminars, doesn't translate to instructionals. Really, that's the sad thing. It's like you hold certain events so high that you're like, when I win that, I'm going to make it. Mm-hmm. But then there'll be some arsehole like me that never won but outsells you. It doesn't make, you know what I mean? It's like, it's not, your life's not set if you win one of these events, but if you win $1 million as a grappler, you're pretty well set up, especially if you're like a grappler from a poorer country. Like $1 million US in Brazil is going to go a long, long way.
And also, it's just going to elevate the whole profile of the sport. Just people knowing that $1 million is going towards the first place grapplers. And then, like, has UFC Fight Pass had a positive impact? Has that helped at all?
For sure. I mean, obviously, it helps so much. Like, my dream's always taking on MMA guys, you know? Like, they got the clout, they got the big names. So, obviously, UFC Fight Pass helped that happen. But, I mean, Techi's put a lot of work into the Fight Pass events, and those are very, very popular. I think that would be the pinnacle of sort of professional super fight events.
And what is, like if you fight in UFC Fight Pass, like, what is a big payday at UFC Fight Pass?
I know some of the athletes might get, I don't know how I should say it. Techi will probably kill me, but I mean, it's broad. Like, it could go from 10 to six figures, really. And again, that's the thing. When you compete for an event like a tournament, you might face 4 guys. Like, for me personally, I might face 4 guys that I could have made much more money facing off in a super fight setting.
Right.
So it really, like, in terms of the investment, the commitment, the training, the time to prepare for potentially 4 opponents, to win something like $10,000, when if I just had 4 super fights,
right,
I'd make so much more money. Obviously, wouldn't get the medal.
And the amount of money that you're going to spend in the camp anyway, just with nutrition, supplements,
steroids, the damage you do to your body,
all the jazz, everything. You mean you're spending $10,000 anyway?
Yeah, your blood pressure goes up, your liver values go up. You push it to you redline it for a thing like ADCC.
Well, that is the craziest thing about the sport, is that steroids are openly tolerated. It's probably the only elite professional sport where, particularly because of Gordon, because Gordon's been so open about steroids, that everyone knows that the athletes are on juice.
You know, that's the thing that came up in the film a number of times. So we should talk about that a little bit, because there was some actually just, factually inaccurate information about B12 that I want to correct. So the claim, this is slide 55, Jamie. James said B12 is not made by animals. It's made by bacteria that these animals consume in the soil and water. Before industrial farming, farm animals and humans could get B12 by eating traces of dirt on plant foods or by drinking water from rivers or streams. But now, because of pesticides and antibiotics and chlorine that kill the bacteria, this vitamin, even farm animals...
That produces this vitamin.
Yeah, that produces this vitamin. Even farm animals have to be given B12 supplements. That's just all false. That's all just factually wrong. So first of all, B12 is made by bacteria, but animals don't get it from consuming soil and water. The B12 is made by bacteria in their gut. So in ruminants like cows, in the rumen, which is a chamber in the stomach, the bacteria convert cobalt that they get from grass that they eat into cobalamin, which is B12. And then they are foregut fermenters, so they can absorb the B12 the bacteria produce in their intestines and utilize that themselves. So primates, including humans, also have bacteria that make B12, but we're hindgut fermenters, so we cannot absorb the B12 that our own gut bacteria make. Well, that's not exactly true. Chimps and gorillas can, but that's only because they eat their own poo.
Oh.
So that is one potential strategy for meeting your B12.
I hope you didn't just put that out there.
You can be coprophagic.
We will find ethical poo eaters. There's a whole community now of Reddit. Ethical poo eaters is now a new subreddit.
So we cannot get B12 from our own gut bacteria,
right?
And if there is any B12 in soil, it's only from manure, that's come from animals. There's also zero evidence that B12 is fed to cattle, and there's no evidence that humans have ever been able to meet their B12 needs from just eating soil and water. If you pull up slide 56, Jamie, Jack Norris, who's a vegan dietitian, we don't agree on a lot of things, but I appreciate his rigor with the science. He has a big article on B12 on this website, and he says the suggestion that humans have ever relied on uncleaned organic produce for vitamin B12 doesn't have any reliable evidence at this time. So I don't know where to go with that claim, because it's just it's demonstrably false, even from the perspective of a vegan registered dietitian.
Yes. Yeah, I don't know why he said that either, but I just think that that's something he probably heard, and he was probably having a conversation with someone, and they told him that, and he just repeated it. I mean, it's one of those things.
Or maybe one of the doctors on the show brought that up. So
people repeat a lot of these things, and then they become dogma.
So here's the other thing. The second part of that claim was up to 39% of people tested, including meat eaters, are low in B12. As a result, best way for humans to get enough B12, whether they eat animal foods or not, is simply to take a supplement. He didn't provide a reference for that, so it's hard to check that. But again, this contradicts, mounds of evidence on B12 deficiency. So there's 4 stages of B12 deficiency. I don't want to go too far in the weeds here, but basically, serum B12, which is the marker that's usually used, only goes down in the 4th and final stage of B12 deficiency. There are other markers that will go out of range earlier that are more sensitive and detect those earlier stages. So the most sensitive marker is holotranscobalamin, or HoloTC. So in a study in 2013, this is slide 58, Jamie, they compared B12 deficiency depletion according to holotranscobalamin levels in vegetarians, vegans, and omnivores, and you can see the results here. Only 11% of omnivores had B12 depletion, 77% of vegetarians, and 92% of vegans. That's a pretty big difference.
It's a big difference.
It's a big difference.
And B12 is responsible for energy. I mean, that's one of the reasons why when people are feeling sick, they get a B12 shot.
Well, it's also required for the myelin sheath in our nerves. B12 deficiency can cause serious and even irreversible neurological damage. A lot of the harm that happens with kids on a vegan diet comes from B12 deficiency. It can decrease fluid intelligence. It can cause neurological damage that's not reversible even after they start eating meat again.
Maybe that's what's going on with them in this information. Maybe they have legitimate neurological damage. Is that possible?
It's possible.
There's
one more if I can on it, because I'm just passionate about this because it's super important. Slide 59. So homocysteine is a marker that is also more sensitive than serum B12. It's a sticky inflammatory protein that's associated with heart disease and dementia. So 9 out of 10 comparisons that looked at B12 levels or homocysteine levels in vegetarians and omnivores found higher homocysteine levels in vegans and vegetarians. Higher means worse, and it means more B12 deficient. And in fact, the studies, they said the prevalence of hyperhomocysteemia, which is high homocysteine levels reflecting low B12 among vegetarians, may actually be higher than among non-vegetarians already diagnosed with heart disease. So this is kind of a big deal. It's like the B12 issue is serious, and even folks like Jack Norris, to their credit, do acknowledge it and strongly recommend that people who are on a vegan diet supplement. So if people watch this film, I'm glad to hear James saying that vegetarians and vegans should supplement. I don't think omnivores need to usually, but you can watch that film and get the idea that B12, is maybe not that big of a deal.
Right.
It's a big deal.
You guys are dealing with Brexit, right?
Yeah, we've got a.
How's that changed the climate of England?
Well, it's made it very toxic, very kind of like what's happening over here.
Mm-hmm.
It's all gone polarized.
Like with the build the wall stuff. And,
yeah, and it's one side or the other, and there's no one in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
In a way, if you look at secession and American Civil War, that was bound to happen at some time. If you go back to the Constitution in 1787, that was supposed to happen. And I think once European Union, no one's ever tried, from countries that have hundreds of years of history, to choose to try and learn to live together, work together, some shape or form. This tricky thing we're trying to do. It's the hardest thing politically that's ever been done in the history of the world. And I think, because I'm saying the American model with Native American lands and rolling over Manifest Destiny is a different model. It's a different way of things happen.
It's a different time as well.
Yeah, different time, and Native Americans didn't have this idea of, we mark this off and we've registered this land. So the idea that people learning to work together is tricky. At some point, someone was going to say, I think we'd like to change this, or we'd like to move out. So this fight was bound to happen. And so it's very toxic. I'm not getting too in right at the center of it, because you could probably like you have on your news
broadcast, you can listen to people talking hours and hours and hours. Well, what do you think about? What do you think about? And it doesn't seem to get anywhere.
Right.
So I've worked out what my worldview is. This view that everyone's got to have a fair chance in life. I know that automation is happening right now, so there's going to be a whole load of people who won't be able to get jobs because the unskilled labor force, their jobs are going to get automated. That's going to get tricky. So the universal wage is probably going to have to come in. The idea
universal
of
basic income.
Yeah, universal basic income, which everyone's going to have to get, and it's not going to be a negative thing. It's going to be something. Okay, then you can go off and you can retrain, or you could live your life, and then there's artificial intelligence parity by 2050, next 30 years, and what does that mean? We can't even work out what that means.
Right.
I think it's going to get harder before it gets easier. And so I always do the long game. So, I came out back in 85 and I just thought, well, hopefully it'll get better over time. And now we're up in 2019 and it's definitely better than that was. But it can go backwards, forwards, back and forth. But I'm going to try and shoot for that. And everyone have a fair chance in life. And as to Brexit, where that goes, positive, negative, I'm against it, so I was just going to fight it. I don't need to think about whether I'm against it. I just know that I want... The younger people are coming online to vote now. They're old enough to vote, and 78% of them want to be part of Europe. And the older people who are passing away, probably 78% of them wanted to be out of Europe and go back.
So it's a fear thing, like fear of immigration, fear of...
Well, there's a thing. We have to be brave and curious rather than fearful and suspicious. And these are the two ways I think people can go. If we're brave enough, we can be curious and say, hi, how are you? Where are you from? And what do you do? Can we learn from you? Can you learn from us? I think that is the way for humanity to go forward. Or you could be fearful and suspicious. Go, hang on, no, back off, outside. I don't want to talk to you. I don't want to know about you. And that's the fearful and suspicious way. And I think we have to be brave and curious. Otherwise, we're not going to make it.
So for us in America, you're essentially dealing with a bunch of different countries that speak a bunch of different languages, whereas we're dealing with a bunch of different states that speak the same language. But it's
doesn't make any difference. Yeah. That's interesting, because I thought if everyone could get the hang, because English has become a lingua franca for the world. Hasn't made much difference. And as America shows, you can be completely at loggerheads whether you're saying the same words or not. I think if you're not saying the same words, it's easier for people to say, who are these people? We hate them because they can't understand a single word they're saying.
That's easier.
But yeah, it's an easier way to be xenophobic/racist on it. And I've always said a xenophobe is just a racist with a xylophone. Which is my joke, which I got to use somewhere in a political situation.